So the summary for intro into trig ratios is that if you have a right triangle, and we're going to find out later that we don't even need to have just a right triangle, we just need to know this basic information, but anyways, we're going to start with just a right triangle. If you have a right triangle and you know 2 or 3 of the sides, what you can actually do is you can actually calculate the measure of the angles inside. Okay, this little symbol is a Greek symbol, and you're going to hear me say it often, and it's just called theta. Theta is like a variable for when we're talking about angles. So I don't want you to get too caught up in that. It's just a name. Okay. So the terms you need to know are sine, cosine, and tangent. Sine, cosine, and tangent. Okay. These 3 things are going to help you figure out the measure of an unknown angle when you have the measures of sides and you know that it's a right angle. Okay, they're all ratios, and the cool thing about it is when you have a right triangle, you found out from Pythagorean's theorem that there is a very unique relationship between the sides of a triangle and how to calculate if you're missing one. If you've got the 2 legs, you can always figure out the hypotenuse. If you've got the hypotenuse in one of the legs, you can always figure out the other leg, and so on. Well, it turns out you can also figure out the measure of the angles on the inside. Okay? So this is something that you're just going to have to commit to memory, and it is a mnemonic for how to remember the ratios sine, cosine, and tangent, and it's called SOHCAHTOA. So is SOH. Sine is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. Ka, ka sounds like Boston way of saying a car, but it's not. It's ka. And that is cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. And toa, tangent, is equal to opposite over adjacent. Okay, so this is, I've written all 3 of them out. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So ka is cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and toa, tangent, is opposite over adjacent. All right, these are the ratios that are going to help you figure out the missing angle, the theta, the unknown angle. Okay, so in this particular example, okay, we have a right triangle, and you've got legs that are 3 and 4, and then you have a hypotenuse, which is 5. Okay, so the way to read this, if I'm trying to figure out this angle, all right, the sine of theta is going to be opposite over hypotenuse. Okay, well, we're talking about this angle, so this number 3 is opposite, and this number 5 is the hypotenuse. So the sine of theta is 3 over 5. Okay, we're gonna get into like the measures and what this means in a little bit. What I want you to just understand right now is these ratios and how to get them and get the right numbers. Okay, so the cosine of theta, again the same angle, we're looking at this theta. The cosine, ka, is adjacent over hypotenuse. Adjacent is next to, and hypotenuse is always hypotenuse. Hypotenuse is always across from the right angle. So the cosine of theta is 4 over 5. The tangent of theta, okay, tangent, toa, opposite over adjacent. So the tangent of this theta is opposite over adjacent. Hypotenuse is always hypotenuse. It is never considered adjacent. Okay, that's why these are all, these 2 change just based on their position. They're either opposite or they're adjacent. In this case, the tangent of theta is opposite over adjacent. So opposite is 3, adjacent is 4. So the tangent of theta is 3 over 4.